Americans have lost the concept of freedom. And what began as a country where everybody was welcome and everybody minded their own business has now become millions of divisions of little groups with their own special agendas out to get everybody else's freedom. And I, for one, am absolutely sick of it. Sick of it, ladies and gentlemen. It is a terrible situation. I don't like it. I'm not going to put up with it, to tell you the truth. I'm not going to allow anybody else to get away with it. I'm going to shine a spotlight on it whenever I can. Okay. Immigration. Remember the caller last night who wanted to talk about immigration and said that our country was being destroyed by these people who have come across the border? Ladies and gentlemen, those people are not the ones at fault. They are being used, abused, and in the process, they will be re-enslaved in the same kind of system, just like the one that they were trying to escape from when they came to this country. Just like your forefathers, just like your ancestors, when they came to this country, they are escaping religious, political, and economic persecution. They're coming here for what they perceive to be a better life. And as soon as they get here, the socialist machine picks them up, indoctrinates them, points them in the right direction to further the socialist needs of the New World Order. It accomplishes several different things, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, it dilutes and eventually will destroy the traditional culture of the American people. This we know. This we can see in areas where it is heavily overrun with immigrants. The people who are allowing them to come across the borders in these great hordes know this. It's the whole purpose of it. Are you really telling me that the United States government can't seal off a section of its own border and prevent the mass immigration or the mass illegal immigration of all of these people? Now, if they're telling you that, I'm going to tell you right now it's a lie. You put me in charge of the Immigration and Naturalization Service, and I can seal the border, and I guarantee you that every once in a while, 1 or 2 or 3 people might slip over, but not any more than that. It's not a difficult thing to do, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, it's very easy. It is much easier than any of you would imagine. Now, there's nothing wrong with these people. Never has been. For there is not one of us in this studio or listening to this broadcast who, if we found ourselves in the same terrible conditions, would not try to do exactly the same thing. Not a one of us. Not one. So to criticize people for attempting to make their lives better or to make the lives of their families better is wrong. However, they are breaking the law by coming across the borders illegally. I believe in the law. The United States of America allows a certain number of people to immigrate into the United States each year. And they do not, ladies and gentlemen, discriminate against any races, religions, or countries. Once that quota is filled, no more people should come into this country because it is against the law. But if they come into this country against the law, they cannot be persecuted because they're trying to make a better life for themselves. You can't say that they are destroying this country. No. I told you last night, ladies and gentlemen, that the traitors, the people who are destroying this country, are in Washington, D.C. The people who are allowing these poor people to come across our borders are in Washington, D.C. Go talk to any border guard, any of the lowest ranked people who guard our borders against illegal immigrants coming across, and they will tell you what is wrong. They are not allowed to have the things, or do the things, or implement the procedures that they need to stop these people from coming across the border, because the socialists in charge of our government want them to come across the border. You see, socialism must have victims in order to succeed. If there are no poor people, if there are no victims, socialism makes no inroads, makes no headway, has no successes. Why do you think the recent attempts to create victims amongst every class of people? Why do you think women are now victims? Why do you think every time they open their mouth they say, it's for the children, the poor little children? Why do you think they want to pass hate laws? You know, recently a gay student was murdered. Now they want to pass hate laws against murdering a gay student. I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, murder is murder, whether it's a gay student, a straight student, a woman student, a man student, a Chinese student, a student that likes to sit on top of telephone poles nude at noon. It doesn't matter. Murder is murder, and the penalty is the stiffest that you can get. We don't need hate crime laws. There is no such thing as a hate crime. It doesn't matter who you punch in the nose, you're guilty of assault and battery. And it doesn't matter who did it. If you're caught, you're going to pay for it. If you murder somebody, it doesn't matter whether they were gay, whether they were a woman, whether they were a man, whether they were Chinese, Japanese, Mexican, Eskimo, or whether, ladies and gentlemen, in most places of the country, it was a dog. You're going to pay for it. And you can't get a stiffer penalty. And nor should you. There cannot be stiffer penalties for what happens to one over what happens to anyone else. That is not freedom. That elevates a section of society to a more privileged position than anyone else in the society. And in this society, it is wrong. There's nothing wrong with immigration or immigrants. There is something wrong with the people in Washington, D.C. who are allowing vast numbers of people to flood across these borders from just about every oppressed nation in this country, in this world. Why do people who were alive in Nazi Germany tell me that they see the exact same things beginning to occur in the United States of America that occurred during Hitler's rise to power and during his reign over the Third Reich? Why is that, I wonder? Why are these people beginning to get scared in the country they came to free themselves from fear? Why is it that all Americans now are afraid of their own police department? Why is that, ladies and gentlemen? Can you answer those questions? What's the solution? Do you think standing on the street corner yelling racial slurs at Mexicans is going to make them not come across the border? Do you think it's going to make the situation any better? Do you think it's going to make peace in your neighborhood? What do you think about that? Or do you think about it? Do you believe that these people really came across the border to destroy the United States of America or the state of California, or that they're just out to get you? You think they're all running across the border and jumping on welfare? No, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, unless they're single women with children, most people with Latin ancestry are looking for a way to make money. They want to work. And they'll do almost any job. If you don't believe me, go to a Chinese restaurant. If you can find a Chinese cook back there, you're lucky. It's usually a Mexican cook. Who's doing the dishes? It's usually a Mexican or somebody from Guatemala or El Salvador. Who's picking the vegetables on all the farms across the country? I guarantee you'll never see a member of the Aryan nations out there picking fruit or picking strawberries or picking lettuce. No, they're Mexicans. They're from El Salvador. They're from Nicaragua. They're from Costa Rica. No, folks. Wherever you'll find a low-paying job that no one else will accept, a job that pays less than welfare, you will find someone of Latin American extract working at that job. And it doesn't take more than a couple of hours after you put up the sign to get one of them. They're standing there, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4, competing for that job. If you want to see who's on welfare, go to the welfare office. You'll see a lot of blacks, but you'll see mostly whites. Mostly whites are on welfare in this country. You see, the media tries to stir you up into racial antagonism by doing stories on welfare where they only show blacks. And they do it intentionally. Have you ever seen a welfare program on television where they showed white people on welfare? No. Have you ever written a letter to CBS or NBC or CNN or ABC, any of these communist puke manipulating creeps, and asked them why they do that? Have you ever made them accountable? Have you ever decided to stop swallowing their lies and just turn off your TV, or better yet, take it and give it to your 2-year-old child along with a hammer for a birthday present? That's what you ought to do. You see, even those of you who think that you are educated, who think that you're on top of things because you listen to this broadcast and others, still fall for the manipulations. You still buy it. You still sit down to dinner and watch Dan Rather Not on the news, and you still believe what you see and hear. That's the power of the boob tube. Don't tell me that you don't, because I go to these patriot meetings. I travel around the country, and I speak, and I talk to people. And by and large, most of the people in this country are under the impression that only blacks are on welfare. And that is a lie. A most despicable lie. It is a purposeful lie created by the media in order to pit the races against each other. The lie that Mexicans are coming across the border to destroy this country is another one. Let's take your calls in a few minutes. About 4 minutes, right after we do the WBCQ thing at the top of the hour, we'll open the phones and take your calls. And see what you have to say about all of this. You see, the guy that called last night had a good topic that's worthy of a lot of talk. It's a worthy topic. It's a real problem, both to the Mexican authorities and to our authorities, to the Mexican people and to the people in this country who are affected by this. But it's not a racial issue. And it's not an issue where you go down and you get in front of some poor Mexican's face who's just trying to make his life better and start screaming and yelling at him and blame all your problems upon him or her. That's only guaranteed to create more problems. Problems that I guarantee, once they start, you'll wish had never started. Some of you who have become engaged in some of those kinds of exchanges already know that. Already know it. And oil comes from a place in California where it's a big issue. All year long, and then it builds to a great crescendo every time there's an election. Every time.